Hello, everyone. Welcome to EVTN News. I just got off of Twitter and I found some interesting information. Cardinal Roach just met with Pope Francis today. There is there is no information about what was discussed, but I think we can imagine what was discussed, and I'll get to that later on. At least the latest information coming out of Rome. But speaking of Cardinal Roach, shortly after Pope Benedict the 16th promulgated Summorum Pontificum in 2007. We read in the Catholic World Report. This is from infovaticana.com. Or just, yeah. That they read that in the Catholic World Report, the Bishop of Leeds at that time, who was Roach, issued an interpretation in which he did everything possible to annul the liberalization of the Latin Mass that guaranteed the papal motu proprio and reduce it to irrelevance, hindering its application. So Cardinal Roach worked very hard against Summorum Pontificum, but now he expects everyone to blindly follow his orders. For example, he insisted that parish priests could only introduce the Latin Mass if requested by a, quote, stable group of the faithful within their own parish, not from various parts of the diocese. He stated that the bishop had the authority to determine whether or not a priest was qualified to celebrate the Tridentine Mass. Subsequently, the Vatican Instruction Universae Ecclesiae corrected his 2 points. Now fast forward to 2023. Cardinal Roach has contacted at least one bishop to insist that dispensing parishes from Traditionis Custodes is reserved to the Holy See, despite the fact such a claim is not contained in the motu proprio, and despite the fact that according to canon law, the bishops have this power to dispense unless the law that regulates a certain matter expressly establishes otherwise. So basically, Cardinal Roach says, do as I say, not as I do, and basically just leads to the credibility that if you disagree with the Pope, then you can ignore what he says. And unfortunately, Benedict was a lot more lenient on bishops who were disobedient, and it's probably one of the reasons, not probably, it is one of the reasons why we have so many problems in the church today, is because he didn't deal with modernist anti-Catholic bishops. In fact, I don't know, did he promote some of them? He didn't do anything to stop them, that's for sure. All right, German diocese. Just want to remind you, Germany's bad. Mainz Bishop Peter Kohlgraf of Germany wants an ordination of women, he said in a February 15th interview, which is heresy. Turning to the anti-Catholic theologian Dorotheus Sadler, who was present at the interview, he said he could also well imagine a Bishop Sadler if this were well regulated in the Universal Church, as if this were a matter of some additional roles. Sadler, who is leading a group at the German Synod on the topic of women in the ordained ministry, replied with unintentional humor, I would of course have to examine myself and be examined as to whether I am called to be a bishop. So the decline of the German church is rapid. On Valentine's Day, Aachen Diocese announced that it was already offering LMNOP pseudo-blessings throughout the diocese. For this purpose, a picture of two kissing LMNOPs and the slogan, Love is Everything, was distributed. So there's many heresies going on in Germany. And I think it kind of underscores the point. The reason I posted, even talked about this story, well, I guess it could be to remind you. That wasn't really my intention, but it is to remind you that Germany's bad. Or it's really bad in Germany. The Catholic faith may still exist among a few of the bishops, but most of them, it's pretty much gone. And if that's the case, then what do you do? Like, what do the priests do? Do they support this? These anti-Catholic ideas? Are they opposing their bishops? Because if they oppose their bishops, will they be removed? And that's where I think the SSPX comes in. Now, the SSPX isn't the answer to everything, but it certainly provides a solution to a lot of people. So that was sort of my point, is that to ask the question, and I don't know if this will happen in the United States. Will it? I mean, there are certainly some bishops like McElroy and Stowe. Um, who else? Supich and Tobin. You can't follow them. You cannot. They are anti-Catholic. And if a majority of the U.S. bishops were promoting the stuff from Germany, then certainly those bishops, the ones that I have mentioned and several more, they would definitely jump on that bandwagon and support this stuff. I think a lot of them kind of, under the radar, under the table. I think they support a lot of this stuff. They're kind of waiting to see what happens in Germany, but a lot of them are really bold. And Stowe is on the Continental Synod committee. So he's rising in the Francis Church. I'm actually very surprised he wasn't named the Archbishop of Louisville, Kentucky, because he's right over there. They just move him right over to an archbishop before they name him a cardinal in the Francis Church. But at this point, yeah, he's a rising star. He's very young, and I hope that if there is a Catholic pope, hopefully they'll shut him down if we ever get a Catholic pope. But otherwise, under Francis, he's just going to continue to rise. He's going to be named to these stupid committees, and Now in the USCCB, Cardinal Tobin was up for. It was between him and another guy. I think it was Coakley, Archbishop Coakley of Oklahoma City. It was between those two for one of the committee chairs, and he lost. So just because you're a cardinal doesn't mean anything in the USCC in terms of if you have support from fellow bishops, which it was a positive sign. Nighty night baby. He had an Italian male model living in his rectory. What does that say? All right. As part of a push for an ecological conversion, the Vatican has partnered with a Swedish climate sustainability group issuing resources to tackle climate change, which will be sent out to thousands of parishes across the world. So if you see one of these in your parish, talk to your pastor and say, I reject this eco theology, this Pachamama worship. I reject it. I don't expect the parishes I attend to promote this stuff. Suburban liberal areas. They post signs on their parishes that say immigrants and refugees welcome. They've probably never had a single immigrant attend their parish. Anyway, an update on Bishop Barron's diocese. I'm actually, after I posted the video, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I'm even more confused. Like I don't really know what happened. Bishop Robert Barron of Winona, Minnesota has announced that he has no intention of banning the traditional Latin Mass from his diocese, but has decided to move it from its present location at St. Peter and Paul Parish to another as yet undetermined location within the diocese. Now, people have posted, I think they've commented on Twitter responding to me, and I don't know. All it takes is someone who has the inside information. LifeSite News reached out to the parish and the Diocese of Winona for clarification. Is it Winona or Winona? The pronunciation is interesting. Anyway, for clarification and comment on the situation, the diocese referred LifeSite News to its official statement, said that Barron wants the Latin Mass to continue being celebrated within the diocese, which the statement said, so nothing new. However, the diocese would not confirm either that the college chapel had been officially designated as a new location, so this beautiful college chapel, which some people said was a high school. See, that's what I mean. It's just information on Twitter and Father Z's blog. It's kind of like spotty, hit or miss. Had been officially designated as a new location for the Latin Mass, or that the SSPX would be allowed to offer Mass there. So it seems like people are saying that Barron allowed the SSPX to offer wedding masses, but it doesn't. But I can't confirm that. Like, no one's been able to confirm that. So anyway, that's the update. The update is basically, I'm not sure. It's inconclusive. I mean, I can only do so much. I can only go by what I see, and Twitter's not always the most reliable source. Anyway, okay, Bishop McElroy, a while ago, he came out in favor of LMNOP. He basically said, like, LMNOP should be admitted to communion no matter what, whether they're in a relationship or whatever. We should not deny them communion, which is pretty standard with the Francis Church. Don't deny communion to anyone, even those of different religions. Pope Francis has indicated that a few times. And also, he came out in favor of women priests. Came out, get the pun, not really a pun, double meaning, whatever. So there were a few bishops who criticized him. So Archbishop Chaput, former Archbishop of Philadelphia, kind of, so I'll read just a short sentence that he said, a few sentences. He said, Cardinal McElroy clearly and courageously wrote about his convictions. Unfortunately, many of his convictions are wrong and contrary to the faith of the Church. I'm surprised, and what's worse, many good people are confused and scandalized that he hasn't been publicly corrected by the Holy See. Okay, so Chaput, he's surprised that the Vatican hasn't corrected McElroy. Let's consider this. McElroy was just named a cardinal by Pope Francis. He has said before he has been supportive of LMNOP activity. He has been supportive of women priests. He said that women should be ordained to the diaconate, and so he's basically been heretical on several issues, and then Pope Francis decided to promote him. And Chaput is surprised that Pope Francis hasn't corrected him, and people are confused and scandalized. Have you been paying attention to the United States Church in the past 4 years? Vigano also said McElroy rose up the ranks because of McCarrick. How are you surprised, Chaput? You're in these meetings more than I am. I'm not shocked at all. This is pathetic. This is Archbishop Chaput. He'll say, "Oh, we shouldn't give communion to Biden." Great. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. He hasn't done anything. And in fact, he said, "Oh, Latin masses, yeah, they shouldn't have banned it like they did." Implying that, oh yeah, traditionalists are radical. Yeah, they're mean, but I don't think that he handled it the right way. Yeah, great. Okay, Chaput. Thanks. Go back to giving your conferences, I guess. Archbishop Naumann criticized McElroy. Archbishop Naumann has been a supporter of pro-life. He's been one of the leading pro-life bishops in the United States. So I always, I give him credit for that. Because McElroy is not pro-life. He's indicated that many times. Naumann criticized McElroy. Archbishop Naumann said, Cardinal McElroy appears to believe that the Church for 2,000 years has exaggerated the importance of her sexual moral teaching and that radical inclusion supersedes doctrinal fidelity, especially in the area of the Church's moral teaching regarding human sexuality. In my opinion, this is a most serious and dangerous error. So I'm glad that bishops are bringing this to people's attention. McElroy is not... he's not in... I don't know. He's not a Catholic bishop. What, can I say that? He doesn't promote the Catholic faith. What does he promote? The Francis Church. That's what he promotes. Okay. So the Remnant, Diane Montagna, reported from the Remnant. This is what you've been waiting for, the story that you want to hear about. There's a lot to it, so bear with me. And it's not much different, but it kind of builds upon what was the rumors that were being stirred. There's a little bit. There's a some slight twists to these rumors. Anyway, it says the remnant has learned that a Vatican document is currently under review by Pope Francis that would expand and reinforce his 2021 motu proprio Traditionis Custodes, affirm that the only liturgy of the Latin Rite is the Novus Ordo, and stringently regulate the ex ecclesia Dei communities. Well-informed sources have confirmed to the remnant, which accurately warned of Traditionis Custodes before it was published in 2021. Yeah, pat yourself on the back, right? That the draft document in the form of an apostolic constitution was presented to Pope Francis at the end of January by superiors of the Dicastery for Divine Worship and Discipline of the Sacraments, headed by Cardinal Arthur Roche. Okay. While Traditionis Custodes is aimed chiefly at thwarting the growth of the traditional Latin Mass and sacraments among diocesan clergy, this new document would deal a particularly heavy blow to ex ecclesia Dei communities by banning diaconal and priestly ordinations in the Vetus Ordo, which is Latin Mass, prohibiting the administration of the other sacraments to the faithful and requiring concelebration of all priests, including members of these institutes. So what this is saying is the FSSP and the Institute of Christ the King would not be allowed to have traditional old rite ordinations. They wouldn't be allowed to administer the old rite sacraments. And concelebration, who cares? Right? Just say, oh, you didn't feel like showing up. Couldn't make it. What are they going to do? But no, that's pretty serious. So this is what has been discussed. Okay. A prohibition of Sunday Masses in the Vetus Ordo and the Latin Mass is also said to be on the table. So that's a possibility that Sunday Masses could be prohibited for these Ecclesia Dei communities, it seems like. So they couldn't say the Latin Mass on Sundays. That's pathetic. Are they going to fight it? I don't think. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's just a proposal. The remnant has also learned that an Italian cardinal created in 2022 is seeking to persuade Pope Francis to promulgate an alternative apostolic constitution, which may at first glance seem less harsh, but in fact be worse by seeking once and for all to bury the traditional Latin liturgy. So there are four men who are named cardinals in 2022 that have Italian descent. So I don't know. I don't know any of their backgrounds. So I can read you the list, but you might not recognize any of the names either. You can do your own research. I don't know if it's an Italian cardinal, though. I don't know. It could be an Italian bishop or priest or whatever. The second draft, the second option, would never mention the Latin Mass, but rather celebrate the 54th anniversary of the promulgation of Paul VI's Apostolic Constitution on the new Roman Missal, which the anniversary date is April 3rd, 1969, making the likely date of its release Monday of Holy Week. That's the significance of the Monday of Holy Week, was the anniversary of the Novus Ordo, which, unfortunately, a lot of these traditional communities, if they're not beaten down, they will be celebrating Bugnini Holy Week, which is in the 1962 Missal. So, unfortunately, pre-55, obviously, I think a lot of people understand, see the see the superiority of pre-55 Holy Week, but you can really only get to that if you're sedevacantist or if a priest says a private mass. So, yeah, not a lot of options. Anyway, sources say that this second option would recount the, quote, blessings of the liturgical reform of Paul VI and the, quote, abundant fruit it has borne in the Church, and would seek to crown and complete it by declaring that henceforth the only official rite of the Latin Church is the Roman Missal of Paul VI, the Novus Ordo. So you understand the significance there. It would give bishops who are hostile to the traditional liturgy the basis to eradicate it in their dioceses. So right now the bishops are sort of still kind of honoring Benedict's Summorum Pontificum by allowing the Latin Mass, I guess. I mean, I don't think that's their right to prohibit it, but that's what we're dealing with. But if this fake constitution comes through, it would be fake. It would be illegal against divine law, obviously. But if it does come through, if it does get approved, this second option, saying that the Novus Ordo is a sole expression of the Roman Rite, then the bishops, I think they already said that, though. I think Rocha already made mention of that. But I don't think it was like an official Vatican statement. But this would be official from the Vatican, and if that's the case, then they would just say the Latin Mass was abrogated, Summorum Pontificum was wrong, and so it's really just going to be a tug of war between popes, saying, okay, well, JP2 said, okay, you can have your Latin Mass limited capacity. Benedict said you can have the Latin Mass in unlimited capacity, and then Francis says you can't have the Latin Mass. So who's right? Was it JP2? Who's a saint in the Novus Ordo Church? Was it Benedict, who's probably going to be named a saint? Because he was a Vatican II Pope, and all Vatican II Popes go to heaven, right? All dogs go to heaven. I don't mean to compare Vatican II popes to dogs. I don't mean that disrespect, but all Vatican II popes go to heaven, right? Apparently. This is the new Pentecost. They can do whatever they want, and they'll still go to heaven. You can outlaw the death penalty. You can bring a pagan idol into the Vatican. You can endorse the German Synodal Way. You can do whatever you want. You can ban the Latin Mass. Not really. That's against divine law. But the popes will still go to heaven for that. But yeah, you can see how that works. Now, the SSPX a while ago, actually they dissented with, I think it was, I don't know if it was Traditionis Custodes. I mean, obviously they disagree with Traditionis Custodes, but I don't know if they specifically targeted Rocha's statement or Traditionis Custodes. Whatever one said that the Novus Ordo is a sole expression of the Roman Rite, and they said, the SSPX said the Latin Mass is a sole expression of the Roman Rite. And they said they would not accept a concession of creating a different rite for Latin Mass communities. So a lot of people have proposed, okay, well, just say there's a Latin rite. If a pope that's less hostile towards the Catholic faith, if he were to say that, create a separate Latin rite, you have your own bishops and you have your own parishes. It's sort of like the Anglican Ordinariate or Eastern Rite churches where they exist, but they're under a different, what they're called as eparchies. So it's basically a separate diocese in the same geographical regions. Like their regions are, it's just a different map. So that people have said that might be something that may come up in the future for the Latin Mass, is having a separate rite. And the SSPX said we will not accept that as long, the Latin Mass is the sole expression of the Roman Rite. So, but if the Vatican did say that the Roman Rite, if the Vatican did say that the Latin Mass orders were under the Roman Rite, and then they had this new Novus Ordo Rite, would the SSPX accept that proposition? I don't know. I don't think they would do that, but it's a funny thing to think about. I think it's an interesting situation to think about, but I don't know. It's just like, what would I do if I won the Powerball? If I won $500 million, what would I do? Well, right off the bat, I'd pay almost 50% in taxes. So then that would take it down to 250 million. Then after that, I wouldn't think about it because I wouldn't win the lottery because I don't play. You got to play to win. So let's not talk about unrealistic situations too much. Let's not spend our time on that. All right, getting to a sad story. A suspect was arrested Monday in the shooting death of Los Angeles Auxiliary Bishop David O'Connell. So he was killed. He was shot and killed in his house. A spokesperson, so I'm going to go through this. The Pillar has been updating the story throughout the day, and most recently they got some more information. A spokesperson for the Archdiocese of Los Angeles told the Pillar Monday morning that the Archdiocese has been notified that a person of interest is in police custody while the investigation is ongoing. According to the LA Times, there was no sign of forced entry at the bishop's home when police arrived at the scene Saturday. The bishop was found in his bed and suffered from a single gunshot wound. The arrested suspect was reportedly connected to a woman with access to the bishop's residence. It was the bishop's housekeeper, her husband. The Pillar confirmed the suspect was arrested in Torrance, California after a standoff less than an hour from the bishop's home. Okay. Several sources close to the case told the Pillar that the suspect's wife had worked as O'Connell's housekeeper and that she is believed to have been on site when the bishop's body was initially found by church personnel Sunday morning. Ooh. And the housekeeper's husband, who was the killer, I guess he apparently said that the bishop owed him money, so there was obviously some kind of personal dispute here. This isn't some kind of martyrdom thing, as far as I can see. I think it's more of like a personal dispute. So, I don't know. It's sad, it really is. Pray for his soul. Now, Bishop O'Connell wore the same pectoral cross as Pope Francis. In February 2018, he claimed that Francis gets it because our society has changed so much, and there are all sorts of configurations of families now, among which he listed LMNOP couples raising children. So he was a Francis bishop. Pray for his soul. Just a sad situation. It seems like we've been getting more information coming through today. So maybe we'll get more information, or maybe it will be buried like the Paul Pelosi story, right? The media never reported on the extent of what happened there, right? I think there were certain rumors that came about, but so anyway, we don't know about this story, but it's assaulting a bishop is an excommunicable offense. Killing a bishop, same thing. So hopefully the killer repents. I hope so. But hopefully, pray for the soul of Bishop O'Connell. All right. Patty, thanks for joining. McElroy lived with McElroy. I don't think he did. I think what you're thinking of is Cardinal Farrell, who's actually the Camerlingo, who's in charge of the next papal conclave. Farrell is actually promoted higher than McElroy. I love that my TLM church. Yeah, and I usually go to a diocesan Latin Mass, and who knows what's going to happen. We've all been talking about it, but we don't know. Bishops that are hostile towards the traditional Latin Mass are rejecting Catholicism. They are starting a new church and should be openly and loudly rejected. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate that. That's why I say we are the laity, You're right, John. I got it mixed up. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know the association with McElroy and McCarrick. The problem is, Vigano said these things, and then everyone swept it under the rug, except a few. LifeSite News, I think, is one of them that brings it up from time to time. Taylor Marshall talks about it sometimes. There's a few people there. George Newmeyer was talking about it. I mean, we really could use him now. That's we could really use his investigative journalism about right now, unfortunately. Okay, well that's the stories that I have today. That's anytime you see bishop killed, I mean it's not I always joke whenever it comes to like blasphemies and stuff. I don't know. I really shouldn't laugh at it, but at this point, what else can you do? These people are so nutso that they're kind of out of their minds. They're out of their religion. It's basically Anglicans, like the heretic Anglicans. Not even, because I would imagine that the ones during the reign of King Henry VIII basically just rejected like maybe one doctrine, divorce. But, now the Anglicans are basically, what would you call them? Like pagans, like LMNOP cult. And that's what we have right now as bishops, a cult of LMNOPs that are trying to pretend that they're Catholic. But it's very obvious they're not. It's very obvious that all the lay people should reject everything they stand for. Okay. He prayed in front of Planned Parenthood. Are you talking about Bishop O'Connell prayed in front of Planned Parenthood? It seems like he was a little Francis-y. I don't know. I can't judge him. He's dead. I'm not going to judge him. He'll be judged by God, and then we just have to. If his soul is in purgatory, we'll have to pray for his soul. That's really our obligation as Catholics. If someone is able to make it to purgatory, then we need to get them out of there as quickly as possible with masses, prayers. That's because who's going to pray for you when you die? You need to pray for the people. You need to pray for the people who've died and get their souls to heaven as quickly as possible. I know I don't want to spend any more time in purgatory than I have to. And even that, I don't know. Lent's coming up. Think of something good for Lent. Make it a good Lent. Make this one the best yet. All right, thank you so much for watching. This has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.